In a remote mining region of France, mysterious occurrences stirred up tales of an ancient beast that had been buried underground for over 3,000 years, mutating into something terrifying. It's 1965, and a young man named Amir is haunted by a nightmare where miners die as they flee from a horrifying creature. Startled awake, he rushes to join his friend, who reminds him they should leave soon if they want a chance at finding work. They arrive at the recruitment site where prospective miners line up for a tough but well-compensated job. The foreman holds 2 stamps, red for those unfit, green for the chosen ones. When Amir receives a red stamp, he snatches the green one in desperation, stamping himself multiple times. Amused, the recruiters decide to let him stay. Amir heads to a mining company in France's Pacao region, unaware that he's assigned to the ominous 5th mine, nicknamed the Devil's House. One day, a famous scientist, Professor Berthier, arrives to descend into that very 5th mine, which is typically reserved for the more troublesome workers. Meanwhile, an injured miner is brought to the surface by the foreman, Roland, who Berthier insists should accompany him down. New Moroccan recruits arrive as well, with Amir among them, and he joins Roland's team. He's introduced to the routine by Santini, a veteran miner who shows him the ropes. Roland pairs him with a mentor before ordering everyone down into the mine. Inside, Amir feels uneasy, but like the others, he powers on, turning on his headlamp and grabbing his tools. The work is exhausting, and he injures his hand on a jackhammer. Roland directs him to the stable area, where Amir is shocked to see an actual horse, albeit blind, that will soon be replaced by machinery. Later, when a rat gets into Amir's lunch, Roland explains that rats are good at sensing danger, which is why the miners feed them. After a tough shift, Amir is worn out but remains determined. A week later, Roland announces a special descent with Professor Berthier that promises extra pay. The professor explains he needs to reach a specific spot that requires the miners to blast through a wall. They descend once more, and an explosion opens up a floor cavity. The miners exchange worried glances. Working with an open space beneath them is risky. Roland presses Berthier for details, but the professor won't budge, so Roland tosses the professor's notebook into the hole. Frustrated, Berthier volunteers to go down and retrieve it, so he is lowered into the depths with the others following. As they delve deeper, Roland recalls a local legend about the Salel curse, a century-old fire that trapped 30 miners who never escaped. Their bodies were supposedly sailed away, somewhere in the mine. As they investigate, Berthier mysteriously vanishes. Roland divides the team to search, and Amir's group stumbles upon a skeleton clutching a strange, multi-sided object. Amir picks it up, noting the crushed fingers on the skeleton's hands. On the wall, there's a warning that they're all cursed, hunted by a lurking monster. Santini cracks a joke to lighten the tension, and they regroup with Roland, who has also found human remains. They spot a light ahead and catch up to Berthier, pressing him for answers. Realizing no one believes his story about collecting samples, he finally agrees to explain if they'll make another passage. Another blast reveals an ancient dungeon lined with hieroglyphs. Berthier marvels at the engravings, estimating them to be thousands of years old. Exploring deeper, the miners come upon a heap of bones mixed with old weaponry and an ancient sarcophagus. Excited, Berthier explains this may be a burial site for a deity worshipped by an ancient civilization. He takes photographs and the group prepares to leave. But back at the exit, the ladder set up earlier is broken and a tunnel collapse blocks the way out. The group realizes they're trapped and Santini is badly hurt. With no one topside due to the professor's demand for secrecy, Roland, barely controlling his anger, focuses on aiding Santini and sends others to search for an alternate route. Amir, separated from the group, returns to the sarcophagus where miners have started trying to pry it open, ignoring Amir's warnings. When brute force fails, Amir remembers the polyhedron he found, inserts it into a slot and hears a click as the lid shifts. Inside, they find priceless artifacts atop a shrouded figure. The miners quickly gather the treasures, knowing they'll need resources once the mine closes. Amir protests, but they threaten him to keep quiet. Disheartened, Amir wanders off, hearing the others shouting and running frantically. Soon, they regroup and try to recount seeing something alive. Roland dismisses it as panic, but a shadowy figure soon appears, reaching into the darkness to grab one of the miners. Chaos ensues, with everyone fleeing as a bloody trail leads to the body of the unlucky miner. Berthier finally admits he has withheld information. There are records of an ancient, unknown civilization worshipping a god who came from the sky over 3,000 years ago. Amir interrupts to say it's not a sarcophagus but a prison. He recalls a phrase from Berthier's notes that suggests a way out, but the miners remember Santini and rush to find him. Instead, they encounter a massive clawed creature dragging Santini into the darkness. Heartbroken and enraged, they consider using explosives to trap the creature, but some miners argue they should focus on escaping. Berthier proposes that they return to the inscriptions, believing they hold the exit plan. Back at the tomb, meanwhile, the others encounter the creature again, fleeing through bone-strewn passages. Amir, determined to escape, wrestles with Berthier, who becomes the creature's first target. During the skirmish, Amir unlocks the chamber door and escapes, leading the remaining miners toward an exit route as the creature pursues. Ultimately, Amir and Roland decide to use the last of their explosives, knowing it may trap them as well. In a final act, they detonate the charge, sealing the creature and themselves beneath the mine forever. This story unfolds into a tale of ambition, discovery, and the unintended consequences of disturbing ancient powers. And that concludes our movie recap. Don't forget to subscribe and like for more content.